Hey guys! Alright, so I'm going to record a second video today. This is lesson 3, and I like to teach through the lesson practice, and so I am going to have you guys, that's what I'm going to work through because that teaches you all of the parts of this lesson. So page 16, we're going to work through A through K, and I'm going to go over all the rules of exponents. Most people need this review, so please, I hope you're watching this video. Let's just jump right on in. So here we go. So part A is 1 over 2 to the negative third. Now, the exponent rule is that negative exponents, you cannot leave them negative. So you're going to write the reciprocal and make the exponent positive. Okay, so that is what you do. Now, write the reciprocal is another way, and I'm going to kind of go over it later. You're going to move it to the opposite place. So if it's in the top of a fraction and it had a negative exponent, you would move it to the bottom. If it was in the bottom, you'd move it to the top. But you can also think of it as writing the reciprocal. So I'm going to actually flip this guy over to this, and at the same time, I'm not going to write negative 3 anymore. The exponent becomes positive, and the 1 goes to the bottom. So notice I flipped it, but I also changed the sign on the exponent. Sorry, I want to write that arrow a little bit better. And so the negative 3 became a positive 3. From here, we simplify, right? This is 2 times 2 times 2 over 1, which equals 8 over 1, or just 8. Now, in your calculator, you would enter 2, then there's a button that looks like this, and then 3. Oh, don't tell me my pen is running out. And then you would hit enter. So you'd hit that little, it looks like a little triangle peak, but you should get 8. Okay? Next part, so B, they want us to simplify 2 to the negative 4. Now again, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to underline this, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to write the reciprocal, and you might be like, but I don't have a fraction. You do. Remember, the invisible denominator is a 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is flip this. So 1 goes to the top, and 2 to the negative 4th now becomes 2 to the positive 4th. So in your calculator, all right, you would enter 2, the arrow up button, 4. So you hit this button, then enter to get your answer. Or this is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which equals 1 over 16. Okay, so you can either use your calculator or think of it mentally. Okay? Part C. All right, part C, they have negative 2 to the negative 2nd. Now we're going to pause here because a lot of people look at that and think it's a negative 2, and it's not. You have to rewrite. This is negative 1 times 2 to the negative 2nd. Okay, so please do not enter that in your calculator. You're going to get something little funky. That is a negative 1 times 2 to the negative 2nd. So this is negative 1 times 1 over 2 squared. Right, remember we're going to write the reciprocal. And then I'm going to simplify from there. This is negative 1 times 1 over 4, which gives me an answer of negative 1/4. So be really careful on those, of how they write the problem. All right, part D. In the book, I want to write it how they wrote it. Notice they put the negative 2 in parentheses, negative 3. So that is how I know the difference. In part C, negative was not in the parentheses. So that negative is actually -1, and then you'd put parentheses around this part. Okay? This one has the parentheses there, so they're telling you the negative belongs to the 2. So again, we're going to add a 1 underneath. And we're going to flip it over. So 1 over, oh no, pen, no, -2, just breaks my heart. Sorry, I had to switch pens. To the third, notice the -3 becomes +3. So this equals a 1 over -2 times -2 times -2, which equals 1 over -8, or -1/8. Doesn't matter where you put the negative, you put it down or out front. To put this in our calculator, you have to put -2 in parentheses, then the exponent button, then the 3, then enter. You also, if you use your calculator, you're going to get a decimal. And I don't know 1/8 by heart. I think it's I was close in my head, or 0.12. See, this pen is not erasable. Hold up. I don't even have white out. Ugh. You know why? Because my pens that I usually use, or -0.125. Anyways, you choose whether you want to use by hand or your calculator. Last one that is like this, going over negative exponents. Okay, last one is part E. In part E, would like us to simplify negative is on the outside, then -2 to the -4. Oh boy. So, I know that this out here is a -1 times -2 to the -4th. There's a 1 underneath. So -1 times 1 over -2 to the 4th. So notice what changed there. The -1 stayed out front. The -2 moved down to the bottom. But the exponent, a negative exponent, becomes positive. So this is now -1 times 1 over 16. So side note, -2 to the 4th is -2 times -2 times -2 times -2. And that equals a positive 16. If you use your calculator, it's a -2 to the 4th. But you got to put parentheses around the -2. Okay, don't put it there for funsies. So your final answer is -1/16. Okay. Or if you put the decimal form, that is fine as well. I'm going to actually turn the page for these next ones. They require a little bit more work, and we are eventually, towards the end, going to need our calculators. Let's go ahead and jump in with part F. Now, part F is x to the 9th, y to the -1, x to the -2nd, y to the 3rd, and y to the -2nd. Now, the product rule, okay, that's the rule they're highlighting here. When you multiply, you add exponents. Okay, now that works if the base has to be the same. So for example, I'm going to start with my x terms. So I have x to the 9th, x to the -2nd. So that is really x to the 9th plus -2. Then I'm going to do that with y. So notice then I'd have y to the -1st plus 3 plus -7. Adding my exponents. Okay, so I grouped my x's, then I grouped my y's, and I'm going to simplify this. This would be x to the 7th and y. -1 plus 3 is 2. 2 minus 7, I would get -4. 5. Now, I cannot leave my answer like that, okay, because that is a negative exponent. And what did we just learn about negative exponents? You can't leave a negative exponent, you have to move it. So remember, there's an invisible 1, so this becomes x to the 7th over y to the 5th. So my answer is x to the 7th over y to the 5th. You have to move the term with a negative exponent. Now, because you're not here, I'm trying to take extra good notes, right? I'm writing down the things I would say in class. So next one, G. Ooh, G. G looks tough. It ain't. Don't be scared. I'm so sorry. Okay. X to the negative 11th, y to the negative 3rd, all over x to the negative 5th, y times y squared over x to the negative 4th. Now, you don't have to simplify it exactly like me, but I like to do the top and then the bottom. I don't like to overcomplicate things. You need a system here, and you need a system that's going to make sense to you. So don't get all crazy moving things, like do it in an order that is going to simplify your life. Okay, so I'm going to start with just looking at the top. So I'm just going to look at the top, and I notice I've got 3 x terms. And so I'm going to simplify going straight across. So I simplify the top, then the bottom. And again, if you're like, no, I don't like that, then you simplify, you move your negatives first. So anyways, I'm first going to say that this is x, right, to the first. There's an invisible 1 right here, plus 6 plus negative 11. And then I've got y to the 8th plus negative 3. So notice I'm combining the exponents for x, and I'm combining the exponents for y. Okay? And then I'm going to simplify that. So that gives me x to the negative 4th, and that gives me y to the 5th, right? 1 plus 6 is 7. 7 minus 11 is negative 4. 8 plus a negative 3 is a positive 5. So now I'm going to do the bottom. So I'm going to highlight, I got x negative 5 and x negative 4. So x negative 5 plus negative 4. And I've got y to the first plus 2. Okay, so I have y to the first plus y squared. Okay, I'm going to simplify each of those, and I get x to the negative 9th and y to the 3rd. Okay, now from here, I have to deal with my negative exponents. So notice he is negative, he is negative, so I'm going to switch them. So this gives me x to the 9th over x to the 4th. And I've got y 5th, y 3rd. So now I'm going to simplify by subtracting exponents. So it's the top number minus the bottom. So that gives me x to the 9 minus 4 and y to the 5 minus 3. So my final answer is x to the 5th, y squared. Okay? So hopefully, I know I've I have little notes here and there, and so hopefully you can follow this, but I'm trying to give you as much information through notes since I can't see your beautiful faces. Let's move on to part H. Now, you can pause the video and try H, and if not, we can just do it together. So I have y squared times negative 3, or to the negative 3rd, my apologies, x 4th parentheses x, y, -2 to the -2nd, woo-wee, all over x, y fourth. I don't know why I made that noise. Okay. Now this is review of the power rule. And the power rule states that, let's, for example, if I had x squared to the third, you multiply exponents. So this equals x to the 6th. Okay, so this is just a side note. Okay. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to multiply my exponents. So this equals, I'm going to do that first, okay? So I'm going to deal with y. I'm going to put, there's an invisible, and then I've got this y. But I'm going to simplify first. So I have y to the -6th. I'm going to rewrite this. Then I've got x to the -2nd and y to the +4. Notice I multiplied each of these to the outside number. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite the top. I like to do things in steps. Okay, I probably should have left more space from the problem above it. My apologies. And then at the bottom, they just have x, y fourth. Now, just from there, I'm going to start to combine things, but the first thing I notice is I have y to the 4th over y to the 4th. And you can think of this two ways. Something divided by itself is 1 and it cancels, or 4 minus 4 is 1 and it cancels. So these are gone. And then I'm going to simplify. Then I'm going to simplify what I have left. So a couple things we can do. I'm going to move him to the bottom. So I have x, 4 plus -2 over y to the 6th, x. Okay? Right? That's all I have left. So that gives me x squared over y to the 6th, x to the 1st. So that leaves me with x over y to the 6th. Now again, you could be pausing this video, try it on your own, then go back and look at my work. You use these videos to your benefit. It's a great part of digital learning, right? You can't pause me if you were in class. You can be like, I'm just going to silence her. But on a video, you can. So please take advantage of that. So next one, I. We have, oh, awesome, we have letters. So x to the b power to the a minus 1, parentheses x, y, negative a to the negative b over y to the negative 1st. That helps. Okay, remember, we are multiplying our exponents. So I have x to the b times a minus 1. Okay, that's how that reads. I have, my apologies. I then have x to the 1 times negative b. And then I have y to the negative a times negative b. So I'm multiplying this to this, this to this, that to that, all over y minus 1. Okay. So I'm going to simplify. I'm going to distribute here. So that gives me b times a would be, I'm going to put in alphabetical letters, a, b, minus b, right? b times a, b times negative 1. Then I have x, 1 times negative b is another negative b. And then I have y, a, b, over y, negative 1. Now, I'm going to combine these by adding exponents. And I'm going to combine these by subtracting. And let's talk about that. For these, I'm going to add exponents. And for these, I'm going to subtract exponents. Now the reason I'm multiplying the ones in the yellow is there's an invisible multiplication here. And the reason I'm dividing the green is that there's the fraction bar, which means to divide. Okay? So I'm going to combine my like terms. I have a, b minus b minus b. Okay, I'm adding them. And then I have y ab minus a negative 1. So this gives me x to the ab minus 2b and y ab plus 1. That is a really hard problem. Okay, so if you were like, that is too much. Nothing's too much, okay, in math, but it is hard, and most likely that is not what you'll see on your test. It'll be more reasonable, okay? But you do need to be able to do the challenging problems as well. And I'm sorry, I'm unlocking my screen because it's somehow pressed. All right, the last two have to do with scientific notation. And we're going to just jump right in to part J. So in part J on the top, we have 0.004 times 600 times 10 to the 9th. All over, we have 30,000 times 10 to the negative 12th. And we have 0.0001 times 10 to the 3rd. Okay, now this looks crazy, but that's because nothing has been simplified for us. And so that is the first thing we're going to do. Now when I go to do this problem, I have to rewrite in proper scientific notation. For example, it has to be a number written like this, 2.0 times 10 to the 4th. There's only one number before the decimal. So I have to rewrite all of these so that they're in proper form. Then I can combine these. Okay, so here we go. Give me 1 second. I dropped something. Or I was thinking if I could get you to do this faster, because the way I'm asking you is going to take a lot of work. So here's what we're going to do. Maybe I won't have you rewrite it. Yeah, I'm not going to have you rewrite it. I'll just have you rewrite your final answers. I'm sorry. The way I was about to show you was a really long way. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify the top and the bottom by multiplying like parts. So if I just look at the top, I can't multiply this decimal times 10 to the 9th because they don't have the same base. But I can multiply these two. And so using my calculator, I'm going to multiply 0.004 times 600. So 0.004 using your calculator times 600. And I can write this out for you. I'm multiplying. And then I'm going to keep the 10 to the 9th. On the bottom, I'm going to multiply these like pieces. And I'm going to multiply these like pieces. So under here, I'm going to do 30,000 times 0.0001 times, I'm going to multiply these like pieces. Okay, so notice I'm grouping the numbers. Leaving that. I'm grouping the number and the decimal, and I'm keeping the base 10s together. So I'm grouping them together. So on the top, 0.04 times 600 is 2.4, and now I have times 10 to the 9th. On the bottom, 30,000, so you would enter 30,000 times 0.0001, and I got 3. And then right here, remember, we're going to add exponents. So negative 12 plus 3 is negative 9. Now, from here, I'm going to group this. From here, I can now divide like pieces, okay? And so that is exactly what I'm going to do. You could do it this way. We can write the real answer in numerical form, or I can write the decimal answer, but I am going to divide these. So 2.4 divided by 3, and I get 0.8 times, when I divide, I'm subtracting my exponents, so 9 minus negative 9. And so that leaves me with 0.8 times 10 to the 18. Now, I'm going to put this in proper form. So I'm going to change this to proper form. So you can either write it in proper form in the beginning or the end. So proper form would be 8.0 times 10 to the 17th, because I moved the decimal over. And that is my final answer. Now, K is very similar. And so if you want to pause the video, I can set it up for you, and then you can go from there. So it says the United States population, and it gives you in 1 year how much garbage we produced. And they wanted to know how much garbage per person. So I would take the total amount of garbage, which they told me is 4.78 times 10 to the 11. And I'm going to divide that by the number of people, which is 2.99 times 10 to the 8. Remember, I'm dividing like pieces. So I'm dividing these, and I'm dividing these. Okay? I am dividing like parts. So if you want to pause the video, divide the yellow, divide the green. Remember, when we divide the green, we're subtracting exponents. Okay? So if you don't want to pause the video, I'm going to take 4.78 and divide it by 2.99. And I got I'm going to round it. I got 1.598. I'm going to round that to 1.6. And then I'm going to subtract my exponents, so 11 minus 8. So that gives me 1.6 times 10 to the third. Or that would be 1.6. I would move it 3 times, which equals 1,600 pounds of garbage, right? It's in pounds. Oh, yes. See? Pounds of garbage. All right, that was a long one, but that is the end. That is the end of that lesson. Bye-bye.